Imagine waking up every day knowing exactly who you are, walking into every room without shrinking, and speaking with a confidence that doesn't waver, even when life does. What if I told you that your personality and confidence aren't fixed traits you're stuck with, but tools you can sharpen daily? This isn't about pretending to be someone else. It's about uncovering the strongest, most authentic version of you. And it all starts with a few simple choices you make every single day. Improving your personality and confidence doesn't require a complete life overhaul. It simply takes daily intentional steps. When you start with truth, walk in gratitude, carry self-respect, invest in others, silence comparison, pray for boldness, and commit to growth, you begin to reflect the person you were always meant to be. Small choices made consistently create powerful change. So take what you've heard today and start living it one day at a time. When you wake up in the morning, the first few moments are crucial. They can determine the tone of your entire day. And too often we let our phones set that tone. The instant we open our eyes, we're checking notifications, scrolling through social media, reading headlines filled with negativity or chaos. And before we've even spoken to another person or gotten out of bed, our spirit is already weighed down. But what if you flip that pattern? What if instead of letting the world have the first word, you gave that honor to truth? Real, unchanging truth. The kind that reminds you of who you are and who God is. The kind that doesn't shift with trends or timelines. When your feet hit the floor, begin with a declaration. This is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. That's not just a religious statement. It's a power move. It's you saying, before I face emails, people, problems, or pressures, I'm choosing joy. I'm choosing faith. I'm choosing purpose. That one decision to start with truth plants a seed of confidence inside you because you're aligning yourself with something greater than yourself. You're saying, today may be unpredictable, but I know who's in control. It's not about ignoring reality. It's about shaping how you respond to it. You're going to face challenges. You might have a tough job, a difficult relationship, or a stressful situation waiting for you. But when you anchor yourself in truth first, your personality begins to reflect peace instead of panic, calm instead of chaos, strength instead of stress. You begin to speak with more purpose, walk with more direction, and act with more conviction because you've already reminded yourself of the bigger picture. This simple practice also keeps you from being overly reactive. So many people let circumstances or other people's moods shape their personality for the day. One harsh comment, one bad traffic jam, one missed opportunity, and their whole attitude collapses. But if you've started your day with truth, those moments don't define you. You've already declared who you are and how you will live. That mindset gives you power over your emotions, over distractions, and over insecurity. And the more consistently you do it, the more natural it becomes. You begin to train your heart and mind to lean into hope and confidence, not fear and confusion. There's also something about speaking truth out loud that builds boldness. When you hear your own voice declaring strength, declaring joy, declaring purpose, it awakens something inside you. You stop waiting to feel confident and start choosing to be confident. Confidence isn't a mood, it's a mindset. And it begins with what you tell yourself first thing in the morning. The world will try to tell you who you are. But when you speak truth first, you remind yourself who you were created to be. Gratitude is one of the most powerful and transformative habits you can build into your daily life. It doesn't require wealth, status, or perfect circumstances. It simply requires awareness. When you choose to focus on what you do have instead of what you lack, you shift your internal atmosphere. Gratitude is like sunlight to the soul. It warms up your attitude, brightens your personality, and helps everything around you grow. People are naturally drawn to grateful individuals because they carry a spirit that is content, kind, and full of perspective. Too often, we get caught in a loop of dissatisfaction. We're constantly thinking about what's next, what we want to fix, gain, or change. And while growth is good, discontent can drain your confidence if you're always measuring your life by what's missing. Gratitude interrupts that cycle. It says, before I chase more, I will honor what I already have. And when you live with that posture, you begin to see blessings that were there all along, things you overlooked because you were too focused on what felt broken. A grateful heart shifts how you see the people around you. You begin to appreciate the efforts of others, value relationships more deeply, and respond with patience instead of frustration. That builds a personality that's warm and inviting. It also removes entitlement, which is a silent killer of joy. Gratitude reminds you that you're not owed anything, but you've been given much. That humility radiates in your interactions and adds depth to your character. Gratitude also strengthens your confidence by changing your internal dialogue. Instead of constantly saying, I'm not enough, or I don't have enough, you start saying, I have what I need for today, or I'm thankful for where I am while I work toward where I'm going. That mindset takes pressure off your shoulders. You no longer see yourself as lacking. You see yourself as blessed, equipped, and progressing. Gratitude affirms that your journey matters, even if you're not yet where you want to be. One practical way to walk in gratitude is to make it part of your morning and evening routine. When you wake up, name 3 things you're thankful for. They can be simple breath in your lungs, the sound of your children's laughter, or the chance to try again today. Before you go to sleep, reflect on what went right. Even on a hard day, there's always something worth thanking God for. These small moments of reflection reshape your heart and reframe your day. Gratitude also guards your mind against negativity. When you're actively looking for things to be thankful for, you don't give as much space to complaints, criticism, or comparison. You protect your joy. And when joy is protected, your confidence grows. You're no longer moved by every storm or discouraged by every delay. You carry yourself with assurance, knowing that blessings still surround you, even in the waiting. Gratitude builds resilience, and resilience is a foundation for lasting confidence. Self-respect is the quiet engine that powers confidence and shapes personality. It's not arrogance or self-obsession. It's simply the deep understanding that your life matters, your presence counts, and your words carry weight. It's about walking in a way that says, I belong here, not because the world gave you permission, but because your Creator did. When you carry self-respect, you don't need applause to feel valuable. You don't need approval to know your worth. You live out of identity, not insecurity. The way you dress, speak, and carry yourself each day reflects the way you see yourself on the inside. You don't have to wear expensive clothes or adopt a polished style, but you should show up with intention. When you get dressed, do it with purpose. Prepare for the day as though it matters, because it does. When you care about your presentation, it tells the world that you have dignity, and more importantly, it tells you that you are not invisible. You're showing up for your life. In how you speak, be clear, be calm, and be confident. You don't have to talk loudly to be heard. Sometimes the most powerful voice is the one that speaks with thoughtfulness and conviction. Avoid belittling yourself in conversation. Don't apologize for your presence, your opinions, or your goals. Speak with grace, but also with strength. Let your words carry the weight of someone who values themselves and values others. Every time you speak with that balance, you build trust in yourself and in the people around you. Posture plays a role too. Hold your head up, make eye contact, walk with purpose. These aren't just body language tricks. They're physical reminders to your mind and spirit that you are not defeated. You are not lost. You are not just going through the motions. You are living with intention. Over time, these habits influence your emotional state. The way you move externally can begin to shift how you feel internally. Boundaries are another vital aspect of self-respect. When you say yes to everything and everyone, even at the cost of your own peace, you're teaching yourself that your time and energy are not valuable. But when you learn to say no, not out of spite, but out of wisdom, you affirm your worth. You begin to protect your priorities. And that clarity strengthens your confidence because you're no longer living reactively. You're leading your life, not just surviving it. Self-respect also shows in how you treat yourself in private. The conversations you have with yourself when no one is listening matter deeply. Stop calling yourself names in your own mind. Stop doubting your value based on past mistakes. Speak to yourself with the same encouragement you would give a close friend. Build yourself up daily. That internal dialogue lays the foundation for the personality you reveal to the world. Self-respect is a daily choice. It's a decision to live as someone who believes they were made for more, not out of pride, but out of purpose. When you live that way, your confidence doesn't come from what you do or what you achieve. It comes from who you are. When you make the intentional decision to invest in others, something powerful happens inside of you. Your personality begins to shift from being inwardly focused to outwardly impactful. There's something deeply transformational about stepping outside of your own needs and looking for ways to build someone else up. It's not just about kindness, it's about growth. Serving others strengthens your character, sharpens your emotional intelligence, and teaches you how to lead with compassion. And the more you practice this habit, the more confident and grounded you become. Many people chase confidence by trying to stand out. Be louder, be stronger, be seen. But real confidence is cultivated when you begin to lift others up instead of trying to be above them. The world teaches us to compete, to outshine, to win at all costs. But when you make it your mission to encourage someone, help someone, or simply listen without judgment, you develop a personality that commands respect not through domination, but through dignity. That kind of presence is magnetic. People are drawn to those who genuinely care without needing attention. One of the best ways to develop this habit is to look for small, everyday opportunities. Maybe it's greeting someone with a warm smile. Maybe it's offering encouragement when someone's having a rough day. Maybe it's checking in on a coworker, offering to help a neighbor, or simply listening without interrupting. These aren't dramatic gestures, but they make a dramatic impact. And over time, they build a reputation, a personality that's reliable, thoughtful, and uplifting. Investing in others also pulls you out of isolation. When you focus only on your problems, your world becomes small and heavy. But when you lift your eyes and see someone else's burden, you gain perspective. You realize you're not alone. You start to see your own challenges differently. Confidence grows when you stop obsessing over what you lack and start using what you do have to make a difference in someone else's life. Whether it's time, wisdom, resources, or just a listening ear, your presence matters more than you think. This kind of outward living also invites favor. People remember those who made them feel seen, valued, and encouraged. Opportunities come not just from talent, but from relationships, and strong relationships are built on consistent, genuine investment. If you want your personality to flourish and your confidence to grow, make it your goal to be a blessing, not so that others owe you, but because you understand the value of sowing into others. There's a kind of joy that only comes from giving, a deep, unshakable joy that isn't tied to outcomes, but to purpose. And when you operate from that place, you begin to walk with peace and power. You stop trying to prove your worth and start living it. People will notice the change. They'll see the way you treat others. They'll feel the strength in your kindness. And what they're really seeing is your personality being refined, your confidence being anchored in something deeper than image or approval. Comparison is one of the fastest ways to kill confidence and distort your personality. It creeps in silently, often through what we see here or scroll past, and before we realize it, we begin measuring our value against someone else's highlight reel. It could be their success, their appearance, their talents, or their lifestyle, and as we compare, we start to shrink. We begin to question our worth, our journey, and even our identity. What once felt like progress now feels like failure because someone else seems further ahead. But the truth is, comparison is a thief that steals joy, clarity, and purpose. No two people were created to walk the same path. Each individual has a unique calling, a different timing, and a specific design. When you compare yourself to someone else, you're trying to run their race with your shoes, and it never fits. That misalignment creates frustration, insecurity, and confusion. Instead of focusing on your growth, your voice, and your purpose, you become distracted by someone else's lane. And the more you chase what's not yours, the more you lose sight of what is. Breaking free from comparison begins with gratitude and self-awareness. You have to recognize your own progress and learn to appreciate the steps you've taken, even if they look different from someone else's. When you celebrate your small wins, your confidence starts to grow. Not because you're better than anyone, but because you see the value in your own story. That shift allows your personality to shine with authenticity. You stop pretending, you stop performing, you start showing up as your real self. Another way to silence comparison is to change your internal language. Instead of saying, "Why don't I have that?" begin asking, "What has God placed in my hands today?" Instead of focusing on others' success, focus on how you can steward your own opportunities. The truth is, you have a gift, a strength, a role to play in this world that no one else can fulfill exactly like you. The more you own that, the less space you leave for envy or insecurity. Surrounding yourself with healthy people also plays a role. If you're constantly in environments that fuel competition, gossip, or superficial judgment, comparison will thrive. But when you engage with those who uplift, support, and celebrate your individuality, it becomes easier to stay grounded in who you are. Confident people know how to cheer for others without doubting themselves. They know that someone else's win isn't their loss. Choosing to focus on your own growth over comparison builds strength. It reminds you that you are not late, not behind, and not forgotten. Your timing is yours. Your path is yours. And the more you walk in it with intentionality, the more your confidence will deepen. Your personality won't be a copy. It will be a reflection of real identity. That's where true power lies, not in trying to be someone else, but in becoming fully and unapologetically who you were created to be. Prayer is not just a spiritual exercise, it's a daily power source for your confidence. When you begin your day by praying for boldness, you're not asking for a temporary surge of bravery. You're connecting with the one who knows your purpose, sees your potential, and equips you for the challenges ahead. Boldness isn't about being loud or aggressive. It's about being secure. It's about walking into situations with a quiet strength, knowing you're not walking alone. Prayer for boldness activates a mindset that says, I may not know what's coming, but I know who's with me. Too often, people think confidence is something you're born with. Either you have it or you don't. But confidence, especially the kind that endures through setbacks and storms, is developed in the secret place. It grows when you kneel before God and say, I'm not enough on my own, but I'm not on my own. That kind of prayer produces a strength that circumstances can't shake. It re-centers your identity and reminds you that your value doesn't come from what you do. It comes from who you are. When you pray for boldness, you begin to speak differently. You stop shrinking your voice to fit someone else's expectations. You stop apologizing for your presence. You start speaking with clarity and authority, not because you're trying to impress, but because you're grounded. Prayer gives you that grounding. It clears the clutter in your heart and mind so that you can move through the day with purpose. Praying for boldness also helps you say yes to things you would normally fear and no to things that distract or devalue you. It becomes a filter for your decisions. You no longer need the world's permission to take a step forward. You don't have to wait for validation to chase your goals. You've already been affirmed in private, so you can act in public with assurance. This internal alignment builds consistency in your personality. You're no longer one person in public and another in private. You become whole. When you ask God for boldness, you're also asking for the courage to be vulnerable, to try again, to show up when it's uncomfortable, and to stand firm when it's unpopular. That kind of boldness is rare, but it's magnetic. It draws people in, not because you're perfect, but because you're real. And real is powerful. People can sense when someone is living from a deep place of inner conviction. That confidence is contagious, and it often opens doors you never could have forced open on your own. Daily prayer for boldness doesn't have to be long or elaborate. It can be simple. Lord, help me walk in courage today. Help me to speak with truth, to love without fear, and to show up with strength. Those words, when spoken sincerely, invite divine help into your ordinary day. They shift your atmosphere before your feet even hit the ground. Boldness becomes your default, not your emergency backup. And with every day that you choose to pray for it, you begin to live more fully, love more freely, and lead more fearlessly. Confidence is not a one-time decision. It's the result of consistent, intentional growth. Each day is a new opportunity to build yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and relationally. When you wake up in the morning, you're not just starting a routine. You're stepping into a chance to become better than you were yesterday. Growth is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. It happens in the discipline of showing up, in the courage to try again, in the patience to keep going when results are slow. And over time, that consistent growth shapes both your personality and your confidence in ways that are lasting. Far too many people settle into survival mode. They're getting through life, not growing through life. They're going from one task to the next without evaluating whether they're becoming the kind of person they were meant to be. But growth requires reflection. It demands that you pause long enough to ask, what am I learning? Where am I changing? How can I improve? When you stop to reflect, you give yourself the clarity to adjust and the wisdom to grow intentionally. Daily growth often starts with small habits. Reading a few pages of a book that challenges your thinking, listening to a podcast that stretches your perspective, journaling your thoughts to better understand your emotions, practicing active listening in your relationships, taking responsibility instead of blaming others. These simple actions may seem small, but they build momentum, and that momentum fuels confidence. You begin to realize that you're not stuck, you're becoming. Personality grows stronger when you pursue growth because you're no longer defined by where you started or what you've been through. You begin to take ownership of your development. You see yourself not as a victim of your past, but as a student of life. This mindset helps you become more self-aware, more compassionate, and more resilient. You're not tossed around by insecurity or fear because you know you're putting in the work to grow. And that gives you a sense of quiet assurance. Confidence also deepens when you recognize your progress, even if it's slow. Growth isn't about perfection. It's about progression. One day you find that what used to intimidate you no longer controls you. What once triggered you now teaches you. The moments you used to avoid are now moments you're prepared for. That shift doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you show up daily with a heart that says, I'm willing to grow. Another aspect of daily growth is learning from mistakes instead of being defined by them. Everyone messes up, everyone struggles, but people who grow don't get stuck there. They take the lesson, apply it, and move forward. That ability to bounce back builds tremendous confidence. You stop fearing failure because you understand it's part of the process. Growth is personal, but it's also relational. As you grow, you improve your ability to connect with others. You become a better listener, a more thoughtful friend, a wiser leader. Your presence becomes stronger not because you're trying to be impressive, but because you're rooted in growth. And that kind of confidence speaks for itself.